Tonight, we're going to drift gently into the quiet world of formalism. A way of reading literature that asks us to slow down, to look closely, to notice the small, delicate pieces that make a story what it is. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to remember everything. Just let the words wash over you, like a soft tide coming in and out again. You're here to relax and maybe learn something beautiful along the way. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Formalism is a way of reading literature that focuses on the text itself, not the author's life, not the historical moment, not politics, nor psychology, nor personal feelings, just the text, as if it is a small, perfect object crafted with intention. Imagine holding a snow globe. All the meaning you need is inside the glass. The story is a contained universe, a tiny world you can turn around and around, watching how the light moves across its surface. That is formalism. It invites you to notice patterns, shapes, textures, sounds, repetitions, contrasts, the architecture of the language itself. It asks you to slow down and pay attention to the little things that usually slip through your mind like sand. It is calm, precise, quiet, almost meditative. Tonight, we'll wander through this world one step at a time. Formalism began over a century ago, in chilly rooms in Moscow and St. Petersburg, where a small group of scholars met to talk about stories and poems and what makes them work. Outside, snow piled onto the streets, but inside, there were warm lamps, stacks of books, voices murmuring late into the night. These thinkers believed that literature had its own kind of magic. A magic found not in the author, nor in the world outside the text, but in the form. How a sentence is shaped, how a metaphor twists, how rhythm creates emotion without ever naming it. They ask questions like, what makes a poem feel poetic? Why does a story move us? Even when we don't know why, their ideas spread quietly, gently, from one mind to another, and eventually, formalism became one of the most influential ways to understand literature. There are 3 ideas at the heart of formalism. We'll walk through them slowly, with plenty of room to breathe. 1. Close attention. Formalism invites you to examine a text as though it is a small, intricate carving. Every curve matters, every line plays a role, every detail belongs. It's like running your fingers along the grain of wood or tracing the shape of a seashell. Close reading is a kind of listening, a quiet art. 2. Defamiliarisation. A long word with a very gentle meaning. It simply means making the familiar feel new again. A poet might describe a simple object, a cup, a window, a tree, in a way that shifts the angle of your perception. Suddenly, you see the world differently. Softly changed, strange and beautiful. 3. Form creates meaning. In formalism, how something is written is just as important as what it says. A short clipped sentence creates tension. A long flowing sentence creates calm. A repeated image whispers a quiet message beneath the surface. Meaning isn't only in the ideas, it's in the shape of the language itself. Now that we've wandered gently through the heart of formalism, let's slow down even further and take a long, quiet walk through the world that this way of reading opens for us. Formalism is not only a theory, not only a method, not only a lens. For many readers, it becomes a practice, a posture, a way of noticing things you didn't notice before. Tonight, we'll drift into that practice as softly as falling snow. Let's explore what it feels like to read slowly, to observe carefully, to let language unfold on its own terms. Take a slow breath, settle gently, and let your mind release whatever it's holding. We're going deeper now, not into complexity, but into stillness. 1. The quiet of close attention. Imagine yourself in a small room lined with books. The air is warm. A single lamp glows on a wooden table. A book lies open before you, its pages slightly curled at the edges. You place your fingertips gently on the paper. In this moment, the world outside fades. This is the space where formalism lives, not in theory, not in arguments, but in the quiet act of noticing. Notice the words, notice their shapes, notice the length of the lines, the way the sentences breathe, the way pauses create meaning without ever saying so. Close reading is not about analysis, it is about presence. It is about being here, with the text, fully. Let yourself sink into that awareness. The room is silent, the lamp is soft, the page is waiting, and you are simply noticing. This is the heart of close reading. Not judgment, not interpretation, not criticism, just attention. Deep, gentle attention. 2. The pleasure of patterns. Humans love patterns. We love symmetry. We love rhythm. We love the familiar echo of something repeated and repeated again. Literature is full of patterns. Some are obvious. The rhyme in a poem, the repetition of a word, the return of an image. Others are so subtle that you only feel them without ever realizing what your mind has caught. Formalism invites us to notice these patterns like stepping stones in a quiet stream. Imagine you are crossing that stream. Each stone is a repeated element, a sound, a phrase, a rhythm, a metaphor, a structure. One after another, you notice them, you step on them. They guide your movement through the text. This is how a story quietly tells you how to read it, through small echoes, soft hints, gentle reminders. Patterns are the music of literature. They make the text feel whole, interconnected, alive. Some patterns comfort us, some unsettle us, some move so lightly that they seem accidental. But when we read slowly, very slowly, we realize there are few accidents in art. Patterns are choices. They are pieces of a larger design. Formalism teaches us to notice the architecture of that design without ever pushing us to interpret too loudly. Just notice. 3. The strange beauty of defamiliarisation. There is a long word at the centre of formalism, defamiliarisation. It sounds complicated, but it's really very simple. It means making the familiar feel strange again. Imagine seeing a tree every day of your life. Then one night, you walk outside and see that same tree covered in snow. Suddenly you stop. Something that was ordinary now feels extraordinary. This is what art does. This is what good writing does. It takes the things we know, a cup, a window, a street, a feeling, and makes us see them with new eyes. Formalists believe that this is the purpose of literary language, not to explain, or preach, or imitate life exactly, but to remind us that life itself is strange and beautiful when we actually see it. Let your mind drift to something ordinary in your life, a chair, a cup, a shadow on the wall. Now imagine a writer describing it in a way that makes you pause. Maybe they twist the metaphor. Maybe they lengthen the sentence. Maybe they compare it to something unexpected. Suddenly, you're awake again, even while falling asleep. This is the magic of defamiliarisation. It reawakens the quiet wonder we lose through routine. In a sleepy world, in a tired world, this is a gift. 4. The shape of a sentence. Have you ever noticed that sentences have moods? Some hurry, some drift, some linger like smoke. Listen. A short sentence lands quickly. A long sentence spreads out its arms and invites you in. Formalists love sentences the way musicians love notes. They listen to their shapes, their length, their sound, their silence. You can feel it right now. Try imagining a long, slow sentence, one that moves gently from idea to idea, like a feather falling through the air. Now imagine a short one, different breath, different pace, different feeling. Writers choose their sentence shapes with intention. The meaning is not only in the words, it is in the shape those words create as they move across the page. When we read quickly, we miss this. When we read slowly, the sentence becomes a landscape, a field, a hallway, a path. Formalism invites us to walk that path without rushing, to notice the curves and pauses along the way. Sentences are architecture, and architecture is feeling. 5. Imagery as light and shadow. Every story is made of images, not only literal images but emotional ones. The feeling of cold, the colour of a thought, the sound of hesitation. Formalism does not ask where the image came from, what it represents, or why the author chose it. Formalism only asks, how does the image shape the experience of reading? Imagine a poem that begins with a candle. Immediately you feel a small circle of light surrounded by darkness. Imagine a story that describes a cracked window breathing winter air. You can feel the sharpness in the image. Imagine a sentence with words that glow softly, or words that seem heavy with shadow. These are not symbols, not metaphors to decode. They are textures, textures we feel without thinking. Formalism teaches us to listen to those textures, to notice how a bright image lifts the tone, or how a dark image deepens it. Every description is a touch, every detail is a brushstroke. Together, they paint the emotional world of the text, and we, as readers, Move gently through that painted world. 6. The music of repetition. Some words repeat because storytellers want them to echo. Some repeat because the rhythm needs them. Some return again and again like waves. Repetition is one of the oldest tools in literature. The Greeks used it. The Romans used it. Medieval storytellers loved it. Modern poets still do. A word repeated twice feels like a reminder. A word repeated 3 times feels like insistence. A phrase repeated throughout a story creates a thread, something you hold on to as you move through the narrative. Formalism sees repetition not as a symbol, but as a shape that organizes the experience of reading. Listen, if I say softly, 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 you feel something. The sound sinks deeper. If I say never again, a different feeling rises. Repetition is emotional rhythm. It is emphasis without volume, confidence without severity. It is the heartbeat of language. Formalism asks us to hear that heartbeat as we drift through the text. 7. The silence between words. Just as important as the words themselves is the silence between them. Pauses, line breaks, commas, breaths. The moments where the text asks us to wait. Ask yourself, what does silence do in a poem? It creates space, suspense, softness. What does silence do in a story? It creates quiet. It invites reflection. It slows the movement of time. Formalism teaches us that silence is part of the form, part of the meaning, part of the experience. Tonight, as you listen, you can feel those silences, the quiet after a long line, the stillness after an image, the breath between ideas. Silence is where the text meets your mind, not with force, not with persuasion, but with invitation. 8. Form as feeling. In the end, what formalism offers more than anything else is a way to experience the feeling of a text through its form, not through theme, not through message, not through psychology, but through the simple and delicate craft of shaping language. Every poem is a structure, every story is a pattern, every sentence is a gesture, every image is a note in a quiet composition. Formalism invites us to listen to those notes, to follow the structure, to observe the patterns, and to feel how they shape our emotional journey through the text. It is not analysis. It is not interpretation. It is noticing, gently noticing. And when we notice the form begins to speak, softly, clearly, beautifully. And now, with this deeper sense of the quiet world formalism opens, let's move gently toward our close readings. A poem, a passage, a moment in language. We will listen not for meaning, but for movement, not for message, but for music. Let the words guide you. We begin with Poe. Now, we'll move into a gentle reading of a public domain English text. We won't analyse it deeply, we won't rush. We'll simply explore how a formalist might listen to the language. The text is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. We'll read a short section softly, slowly, letting the rhythms carry us. If you drift off, that's perfectly fine. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. Pause. Already, the rhythm pulls us in, trochaic octameter, soft and insistent, like a heartbeat that has slowed down for the night. We continue. Over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. Notice the sound, quaint, curious, the gentle wave of consonants brushing past you. The words feel dusty, old, like the pages themselves, and the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. The music of this line is its meaning, silken, sad, uncertain. You can almost feel the softness of the curtain, the delicate movement of air in a quiet room. This is formalism, listening to the language as if it is a living thing. We move on. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing. The echo of ing, ing, ing creates a soft trembling, a quiver underneath the line. Not psychological fear, not symbolic fear, just the sound shaping the feeling. Form creating emotion. We sit with the silence for a moment. Now, let's reflect softly on what formalism allows us to hear. In Poe's poem, the rhythm, the repetition, the sound patterns, the shifting sentence lengths all work together like threads in a tapestry. For a formalist, meaning is not hidden behind the poem. Meaning is the poem. It is in the movement of the words, the weaving of sounds, the turning of phrases that feel like feathers brushing past your ear. Formalism reminds us to slow down, to read not just with the mind but with the senses. Literature becomes a quiet experience, a soft mirror, a place to rest. Now let's drift gently into another kind of text. This time we'll wander into the opening lines of one of the most beloved novels in English literature, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. A very different voice from Poe, a different rhythm, a different world, but still a perfect opportunity to listen the way a formalist listens, to language, to structure, to small, delicate movements within the text. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften and let's step quietly into Austen's world. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Pause. A calm smile seems to rest behind the line. Soft humour, woven into a carefully balanced sentence. We continue. However little known the feelings or views of such a man may be on his first entering a neighbourhood, this truth is so well fixed in the minds of the surrounding families that he is considered as the rightful property of someone or other of their daughters. The rhythm is steady, measured, like a slowly unfolding fan. The humour sits quietly in the precision of the phrasing. Austen's sentences dance lightly, with gentle irony, careful balance, and graceful control. The story begins not with action, but with tone. This too is meaning. Let's sit with this passage as a formalist would. No history, no biography, no sociology, just the language and its delicate design. 1. balance and symmetry. Austen's first sentence moves like a pendulum. It is a truth universally acknowledged, a grand sweeping claim that a single man in possession of a good fortune, a narrowing focus, must be in want of a wife. A sharp, ironic twist. The structure moves from large to small to surprising. The architecture creates the humour, the form is the joke. 2. Irony through precision. Austen's calm tone hides a playful smile, universally acknowledged, rightful property, these surrounding families. These phrases tilt the world ever so slightly off-centre. If the reader listens carefully, the irony shimmers beneath the polished surface like sunlight on water. A formalist hears the music of that subtle irony, not through biography, not through cultural assumptions, simply through the way the sentence is built. 3. Rhythm and breath. Notice the long flowing structure of the second sentence. It moves in waves, rising and falling, carrying the reader gently from clause to clause. The length itself creates a soft comedic effect. The sentence is almost breathless, as if the narrator is slightly amused by the absurdity of social expectations, but delivers it with absolute composure. The humour is structural, architectural, formal. It lives in the form. 4. Tone as design. Austen's tone is neither fierce nor dramatic. It's light, delicate, precise. The tone emerges not from the plot or the theme or the social message, but from the shape of the language. The tone is crafted. It is a form. Let's float a little longer inside the music of Austen's prose. The opening paragraph doesn't just introduce a story, it introduces a voice that watches society carefully but speaks gently, a voice that observes the absurdity of expectations with a calm, steady gaze. And all of this is conveyed through the balance of clauses, the controlled rhythm, the precise diction. It is a world constructed through form. A formalist would say, the meaning is in the elegance, in the restraint, in the movement from grand to specific to ironic reversal. It is like watching a dancer turn slowly and gracefully, revealing the humour through the choreography of the sentence. You don't need history or biography or social context to feel the irony. The text itself whispers it to you. And so, from Poe's dark, rhythmic chamber to Austen's bright, ironic parlour, we've witnessed how two very different writers shape meaning through form, different textures, different rhythms, different emotional worlds, but both beautiful examples of what formalism invites us to hear. Now, let's drift back to our gentle reflection on why this way of reading matters. In a world that moves too fast, formalism brings us back to stillness. It teaches us to pay attention to the small, beautiful details that often pass unnoticed. A story becomes a gentle landscape. A poem becomes a small, intricate jewel. Formalism is not about solving a puzzle. It is about being present, listening, observing, letting the text reveal itself in its own time, and slowly, quietly, you begin to notice things you have never seen before. It is a practice, almost like meditation, a way of reading that calms the mind. Now, let's wander deeper into the quiet corridors of language. We've listened to Poe's dark rhythm and Austen's bright wit. Now we drift into one of the most haunting meditations ever placed on a stage, a small, trembling moment from Macbeth, when a king, tired of grief and worn by time, speaks softly about the slow approach of tomorrow. No context needed, no plot required, only the sound of the words. Let's listen. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. Pause, feel the weight in the repetition. To the last syllable of recorded time, the words stretch long as if time itself is tired. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. The consonants fall heavy, dry, softly final. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Pause deeply. A theatre of fading footsteps. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Let the silence breathe. As a formalist, we listen not to the character's despair, but to the architecture of the language. 1. Repetition as rhythm. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. A slow drum. A weary march. Form creates fatigue. 2. Sound patterns. Petty pace. Dusty death. Struts and frets. Hard consonants breaking the line like cracks forming in stone. The meaning lives in the sound. 3. Imagery as structure. A walking shadow. A poor player. A brief candle. Each image is a dim light fading further from view. The passage descends into quiet darkness through the order of its metaphors. 4. Breath as emotion. Short lines collapse inward. Long lines slip downward. The form is grief. The structure is exhaustion. Shakespeare's poetry moves like a candle guttering in the wind. Now, we'll drift from the cold stone halls of Macbeth to a different kind of quiet, a soft, thoughtful reflection from early 20th century America, a voice remembering something small, and yet something that shapes everything. Let's listen to the opening of The Great Gatsby, slowly, patiently, letting the rhythm settle. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Pause. The language is warm, measured, gentle. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. The words move like a quiet tide, soft, steady waves against a thinking mind. Reserving judgments is a matter of infinite hope. Long pause. There is a calmness in Fitzgerald's cadence, a softness that forms the world before the world arrives. On, rhythm as character. The narrator's voice is created through form. Long sentences, gentle clauses, sliding reflections. The rhythm is the personality. 2. Contrast shaping tone. Criticism versus advantages. Judgments versus hope. Meaning emerges from tension within the phrasing. 3. Imagery through thought. Turning over in my mind. Thought becomes motion. Memory becomes texture. A formalist sees how the narrator's interiority is built through small linguistic gestures. 4. Tone created by structure. This is not plot. This is invitation. A slow, warm voice leaning toward the listener. The form prepares the emotional world long before the story begins. Gatsby begins in a quiet room of memory, a gentle voice speaking softly of judgment and hope. The form guides the feeling guides the meaning. This is what a formalist listens for. To close our journey tonight, let's sit with a poem that itself feels like a quiet path through the woods. A simple poem, familiar, soft, but built with careful hands. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Let's wander through it slowly, like walking in fresh snow. Whose woods these are, I think I know. Pause, simple, clear, soft as snowfall. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. The lines fall lightly, each word a flake. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near between the woods and frozen lake. We hear the quietness in the rhyme. The darkest evening of the year, a deep breath. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. A tiny sound in a vast still world. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake, soft as breath. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. Long pause, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Let it settle, and miles to go before I sleep. Let the silence hold you. 1. Rhyme is stillness. The gentle aber rhyme moves like footsteps in soft snow, predictable, comforting, hypnotic. 2. Repetition as meditation, and miles to go before I sleep. The repetition becomes a whisper, a mantra, a drifting thought. 3. Imagery built by restraint. Frost uses simple objects, woods, snow, a horse, a lake, the wind, but the simplicity is intentional. Form creates calm. 4. Rhythm as landscape. The iambic meter is soft, steady, like walking. The poem moves with a human pace. The form is the path. Frost's poem is short, simple, and quiet, but within its structure lives an entire winter night. Formalism reminds us, meaning doesn't hide behind the poem. Meaning is the poem, in the rhyme, in the repetition, in the soft footsteps of its rhythm. Tonight, we wandered through the quiet world of formalism. We explored its beginnings, its gentle ideas, its way of listening to the shape of language. We read a poem and felt how rhythm carries meaning, and we let the theory unfold softly, like a page turning in a warm, dimly lit room. Thank you for spending this hour with me. I hope this brought you a little peace, a little insight, a little stillness. If you'd like to explore another theory, you're always welcome to return. For now, rest well, good night, and may stories keep you company in the quiet hours.